Hello guys, my name is Purav and the person you're seeing right now is a completely different version of how I was a year ago. And back then I was addicted to a lot of things, especially video games. I used to play 6 hours a day, like literally 6 hours. And I used to do badminton, I used to go to coaching, around 3 to 4 hours would be wasted there. I used to do everything but do the stuff that actually makes me successful, like related to business or making me money or something like that. And also I realized that back then I didn't know what discipline and consistency was. Like obviously I knew the word and what it meant because they teach you in schools, and I knew that consistency is doing something for a long time. But I didn't know the effect of it. I didn't know the power of being consistent. And I feel like the discipline that they teach you in school is completely different from what it actually is. So the point of this video is to tell you guys and to share my thoughts about how I went from a 19-year-old who's very distracted and addicted to a 20-year-old who is disciplined and has clarity towards his goal. And it's not easy. For me, it wasn't. It took me like 3 to 4 years just to understand what I wanted to do. But right now, I am pretty confident that I know what I want to do and I see the payoff of being consistent. So right now I'm making videos on YouTube. I'm going to stick to this for a very long time. So at least 3 years, but my goal is 5 years, and I know for a fact that I'll stick to it because that is the only way you actually become successful. Now, I realized that I went way off script, so I'll come back. So now let's talk about discipline and what discipline actually is. Like obviously I know you guys know what it means, but I'll give you the simplest definition to discipline and how they're different from schools. Like in schools, discipline is more of walking in a straight line, putting your hands behind your back, finger on the lip, raising your hands before asking it out or before going to the washroom. And that kind of discipline helps you if you're going to join the army or the police. But the kind of discipline it takes to stay consistent and to grow yourself as a human and to become successful is different. And I'll give you an example. So let's say you have a pet dog and she's a puppy, she's like 6 months old, and you have to train her to sit. So you have a biscuit in your hand and you say sit, and she sits. So you give the biscuit and she'll eat. And then the next time you want her to sit, you say sit, but then she doesn't sit. So now what you do is you don't give the treat, because if you give the treat, then the dog will think, okay, if I sit or stand, it does not matter. Like I still get the biscuit. So you give her the biscuit only if she actually sits. And this is the kind of discipline that they teach you in schools, where you have to listen to what they say, you have to follow their orders, and that is completely different from how you stay disciplined. So when I am talking about discipline, I'm talking about self-discipline. I know there's a lot of disciplines that I'm using, bear with me. So self-discipline is where the master and the student is you. Like there's no one next to you standing be like work. Like you're doing it because you want to, and that's 10 times harder than a person standing next to you. Like imagine you're working, you're studying or whatever, and there's a person standing next to you constantly reminding you to study and not get distracted. That way it's much easier to stay focused and less distracted. But since there's nobody to actually control you, there's nobody to tell you what to do and what to not do, it is 10 times harder. But at the same time, it's also 10 times better because you don't need permission to do something. Like if you want to start a business, start. If you want to start creating content, just do it. You don't have to ask anyone. That's the best part about it. And there's a lot of definitions for self-discipline, but the one I go with is very simple, and it says, discipline is doing what you told you'd do. And one more question that I get asked by my friends is that how do you stay motivated? Like how do you do the same task every single day without actually losing interest? And that is I think that is the biggest problem, because we often rely on motivation. Like we wait for the time where we want to do it, where we feel like doing it, and then we start doing it. And that's the biggest problem, because when you rely on motivation, you usually ask yourself, do I feel like doing this? Do I feel like creating content? Do I feel like studying? Do I feel like starting a business? So you focus more on the emotional aspect of it. But the same thing, if you rely on discipline, you stop asking those questions. You say, it does not matter how I feel, I'm going to do it anyway. And that is the difference between motivation and discipline, is that motivation is more of emotional aspect and discipline is a structural format where it does not depend on how you feel or what you want to do. You just do it anyway. Okay, I've talked enough about discipline and self-discipline. Now let's talk about consistency and what it actually is. Like before, I had a view on consistency, like I knew that it was doing the same thing for a very long time, but I didn't know what the actual result was, and I didn't know the effect of consistency. I didn't know how powerful it is, and that's why I could never stay consistent. But now I've been doing the same 5 tasks that I do every single day, and I have a Notion tracker that I use to have my to-do list and to track my habits and all of that. And again, there are a lot of definitions to consistency, and the simplest one is what I go with, and it says consistency is just being disciplined every single day for a long time. And the best way to stay consistent is, as I said before, stop relying on motivation and focus more on structure and discipline. Because if you see the past 10 days, there were days where you woke up energetic, but there were also days where you didn't wake up energetic and you didn't feel as motivated as you were. And that is a problem. It always fluctuates, it's never constant. So if you rely on something that's never constant, you cannot stay consistent, because some days are low, like your energy is low, your motivation is low, and if you rely on your feelings and emotions, you're not going to get the task done. So focus on discipline. You just do the task, even for the sake of it, and the intensity with which you do the task will vary, because if your energy is low, you might not do it as you usually do, but that's completely fine. You just have to give your best on that day, and you have to do it every day, right? So the energy level and your focus level will vary, but the thing that matters is that you do the task. You don't skip a day. Okay, I love this next section that I want to talk about. So hear me out, and it is very important. And it's why people find it difficult to stay disciplined and to stay consistent, like why it's actually hard. The reason is that our brains are not designed to keep us happy. As harsh as this sounds, it is true. Like, your brain follows the principle of survival first. It is not to keep you happy, but it is to keep you surviving. So if you notice, whenever you're hungry or thirsty, your brain gives you like signs in every way, like your stomach starts growling, and if you're thirsty, your throat goes dry. Did I touch my mic? Okay. Your throat goes dry, and then if you're sick, then your whole body starts shivering. If it's cold, it shivers, right? So your brain will give you every sign possible to tell you that something is wrong. But when it comes to happiness, it's not usually that. Your brain actually does not care. And that is why some people are sad and some are depressed and some are really happy, because that's not the motive of our brain. Now that's the first law of our brain. Our second law is our brain chooses the least resistant path. Okay, I'll give you the situation. Answer to me, or you can comment down below. I'll give you 2 options. Either you do 10 push-ups right now where you are, like if you're sitting, just stand up, go that side, and then do 10 push-ups, or you go out of your house and do 10 push-ups. Which one do you choose? Now obviously you would be like, I'll just get up and do 10 push-ups right here. Like, why would I go out and do 10 push-ups? Or you could be the one saying, I'll just watch the video and completely ignore what you said. Like, I'm not going to do push-ups at all. And that's exactly what your brain does. Your brain will choose the least resistant path. Doing 10 push-ups here is very less resistant to going out and doing 10 push-ups, because that takes more time and effort. And your brain does not like that. So you will choose to do the least one. And if you chose to not do push-ups at all, that is even less resistant, and that's why you chose it. So as humans, what we can do is, obviously we cannot avoid that. That's how we are designed. Like, you cannot change that. But what we can do is use that law to our advantage. So let's say you are addicted to scrolling and your phone's always right here, right? You just take it and you start scrolling, and once you're scrolling, you're like, oh, why am I scrolling in the first place? Like, it's all muscle memory, and we're already down bad and very addicted that you just take it and you start scrolling mindlessly. You don't even think about it. So what you can do is use this law for your advantage. So next time you just delete Instagram, or you just keep your phone in another room. Now what that does is it creates friction, it creates resistance. Now in order to get access to your phone and Instagram, you have to go to another room open the cupboard and then get your phone and then start scrolling. Now that takes a lot of effort. So again, if you want to break free from your addiction, if you want to focus more on the things that you want to do and stay consistent with it, the simplest and the most natural way of doing it is to create a lot of friction between you and the addiction, so your brain naturally chooses the least resistant path, which is the work itself. And if you want to know more about consistency and discipline, I suggest you read this book. It's called The Compound Effect from Darren Hardy. By Darren Hardy. And it talks about consistency and how you can use consistency to become successful. And I feel like this is the book that actually taught me the true power of consistency, and I feel like this is why I stayed consistent for this long. And I've made a completely separate detailed video on this, so you can click here and watch that. There are free resources. I've also made handwritten notes as I was reading this book, and it's there in the description of that video. It's completely free, you can check it out. Trust me, it's very valuable, so click here and check it out. And until then, I'll see you in the next one.